Well, first of all, thank you for that introduction. Probably I'd like to tell you how I came to be part of the Positive Coaching Alliance. And as a soccer coach of 25 years, I attended the National Soccer Coaches Convention last January and came across the talk of the Positive Coaching Alliance. And actually, Kelly was the one who gave the talk. And I'm the coach that wants to coach the whole player. You know, as we talked in principle number 2 about the emotional tank, I'm about not just the skills and the drills, but really what's going on above the shoulders as far as the mental or psychological aspect of the game, and really coaching the whole athlete. So I was particularly intrigued with the subject matter that was written up in the program, and went to the Positive Coaching Alliance talk, loved it, said, wow, this is exactly what we need. This is what we need more of. And so I did a little bit more research on the Positive Coaching Alliance, and it brought me to this point in the game because I'm passionate about the message, I'm passionate about the mission, and feel like we can make a difference with each other working together. One of the things that Kelly had mentioned in that first talk, and I also mentioned it to you in principle number 1, was who's that coach that made a difference in your life, and why? Well, when she asked me that question, 2 coaches came to mind. The first one was my college field hockey coach. And I had her for 4 years, but it was a fearful coach. She was very strong. There were no excuses. There were no way to let things slip by. I probably played in a more fearful mode, like, you know, as in principle number 1, when we're talking about mistakes are okay, mistakes were not okay with this coach. And if I did make a mistake, I would look over and say, did she see me make that mistake? And if she did, am I going to be yanked out of the game? So it wasn't like a very positive atmosphere, although we did at times win big games. But the coach that sticks out to me in the positive way is my high school track coach. And he was the one that realized you need to coach the whole person. He was concerned about what I was doing outside of school, what I was doing in school, and what I was doing on the track. And just, you know, he coming from a single parent family, he made sure that I had no issues getting home from practices, that I was eating well, that, you know, the track meets I could attend without, you know, again, that emotional tank being drained. And coincidentally, he is currently my older son's academic advisor at the university level. So we've come full circle, and I still keep in touch with them. We're actually having our 40th year track reunion this spring, and you know, he had told me one time, he said, I won't know how good of a coach I am until I see how you guys turn out. And so I think, you know, 40 years later, he's got several of us that are continuing to coach, and he says that that's his legacy, and that in fact encourages me to continue with my legacy and look at how many players I can affect into continuing their passion for the sport. So that's kind of how I got here, and my drive to be a member of the PCA team, the Positive Coaching Alliance.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to start with, we just finished up principle number 1, which was the elm tree of mastery. And then we moved on to principle number 2, which was the emotional tank. And now we're going on to number 3, which is honoring the game. And if you take a look at this next slide, there's a picture of a young woman. It's a video.
Okay, sorry.
You want to advance the slide?
I'm trying. It's not advancing. Hold on. There we go. That one.
Okay. Does this look familiar to anyone, this particular scene? Does this look familiar to anyone?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. And Ruben, how do you recognize this picture?
I think that's the college softball game where the girl in red hit it over the fence, but she got hurt and couldn't get around the bases, so the other team ended up helping her.
Exactly, exactly. The player's name is Mallory, and this was a district championship softball game between 2 colleges in Washington State. And The player that hit the ball as she was rounding one of the bases ended up tearing her ACL, as you can see in the video. And the other player, Mallory, the one that's helping get her around the bases, decided that she was going to honor the game and make sure that this player got her due right to her home run. And this is basically, this video that you just saw is basically, you know, this is how PCA demonstrates the principle of honoring the game. Honoring the game. And if you think of honoring, that is a verb. That means that this is a continuous process. This is a constant that goes through our philosophy, is honoring the game. When I was growing up, a lot of coaches would talk about sportsmanship. And there were really more of like a don't list than a do list. And we really want to raise the bar. We want to make sure that we're honoring the game, that we're showing respect for the game. So in honoring the game, we're showing respect for the game. And if we take a look at this next slide, which is principle number 3, honoring the game. Okay, you see that it's a tree with roots. Okay, so what's the purpose of the root system?
To keep the tree in place.
Keep the tree in place, yes. Ruben, purpose of the root system?
Nutrients to the rest of the tree. It's how it gets its nutrients.
Okay,
from
gets
the
its
soil.
nutrients, gets its energy, gets its life, really, right? Gets the tree gets its life from the root system. So I want you just to take a moment and think about, and we're going to use this comparison to you and your program in honoring the game. What is the root system in your program like? Because that's truly the foundation. You hear the phrase, it's, you know, from the ground up, and this is really what we're talking about. What is your program from the ground up? So I'll give you like a minute or two to think about it, and then I'm going to call on 2 people, and I want you to tell me about the root system in your program. Okay, Kelly, how's the root system in your program? Can you explain it to me?
It's not great right now.
Okay.
There really isn't a strong root system in place, and that's what we're trying to do this new spring season. We're having a lot of meetings to try to put kind of a set of bylaws and things that we would like the program, like kind of a mission statement for the program together, because it's been turned over so many times by the new presidents taking over for the board and things like that, that we really don't have a great root system in place. But we definitely want to be developing the athletes in lacrosse specifically.
Okay,
this season.
All right, so what you're talking about is setting that foundation and building from there. Mm-hmm. And what the groundwork that you're doing right now isn't necessarily obvious to others in the community when your lacrosse team goes out and plays, but it is to you. And what is going to show is the roots system, our acronym. That's what's going to show to the public. Okay. And Ruben, how's the root system in your program?
Well, I was thinking about the Stanford volleyball team that I coached for many years, and I don't know if this is roots or not, but we used to talk about, we had this phrase, winning isn't enough. I mean, we cared about winning. We wanted to succeed on the scoreboard, but it was how we went about, you know, pursuing victory that was equally important. So that included, you know, representing the university and each other in a classy way.
Okay, and that actually goes back to our double goal coach, which is what this whole program is about, is not only are we, you know, trying to win games, but we're also about teaching life lessons. So that's exactly what we're talking about. So if we take a look at the acronym ROOTS, which would be our next slide, what does ROOTS actually stand for? Okay, I have around the room put up these letters, R, O, O, T, and an S. So I'm going to real quick tell you what these letters stand for, and then I want you to go to one of those groups that you might think your program has the most potential for growth. So the R stands for rules. The first O stands for opponents. The second O stands for officials. The T is for teammates. And the S is for self. So as you go to these particular letters that are around the room, I want you to think about how your root system is as far as rules in honoring the game, opponents in showing respect, officials in showing respect, teammates working together to be stronger together than as individuals, and self, what are the expectations you have as an individual. So if you would, find a letter to go to, and I'm going to give you a couple minutes to talk with other people that are in there and kind of go through what your strengths and your weaknesses are in those particular components of our root system. So they would go to their respective areas. I'd give them about 2 minutes and probably walk around and just make sure that they are on task with what I'm trying to get them to come out with without force feeding them. And then I would have one person be the sharer of the group, and we will start with the rules group. So I'll say, okay, the rules group. What did you guys come up with as far as how you can show respect for the rules? Are there possible ways that you can bend rules or break rules, but yet still honor the game? So can someone give me how you honor the game and showing respect for the rules? Ruben?
Well, we got an NCAA manual, 400 pages of rules, and we're all supposed to follow them. We get quizzed on them, and we're supposed to uphold them. And it's certainly us coaches, and there's penalties if we don't. And it's important because otherwise it's not a level playing field.
Okay, so So basically, what you're saying is the rules give you a level playing field. The NCAA has put them in place probably for safety as number one, safety, the level playing field, and making sure that there's fair competition, right? So are there ways that you can break the rules and get away with it? Like if you think in volleyball, is there a way that you could break a rule and get away with it?
Yeah. An NCAA rule or volleyball rule or?
Well, a volleyball rule in which you could probably break the rule without an official knowing, or
Yeah. So in the volleyball rules, there's no stalling. Okay, you're not supposed to stall. Play continues at the pace that the official sets. However, it's pretty easy to stall because you are allowed to tie your shoe, to ask for a few seconds to tie your shoe in between a rally if it's untied. You're allowed to wipe up a wet spot on the floor, whether it's actually wet or not. And so it's easy to break the no stalling rule.
Okay. Now, in practice, do you allow that to happen?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Well, I would say that's a very good thing not to allow them to break the rules in practice, because in a game they're going to try and do the same thing if you did. For example, holding in football. We know that holding happens in football. You can kick a field hockey ball, and that's advancing. So you're breaking the rules, getting away with it. But really, if we're going to uphold the rules, we can't let them bend in practice. And we really want to refuse to bend the rules, whether it's in practice or a game, because that's honoring the game as it is structured, as it is meant to be played. We want to honor the game. So those are some great things that your group brought up. Okay, the opponents group. Kelly, the opponents group, what did you guys come up with as far as ways in which you can honor the game, or ways in which your team might be strengthened by having opponents?
We just talked about how we talk to the players about their opponents. Do we demonize them? Do we consider them the enemy, that we're going to go out and beat them and we're going to win? Do we focus on that with the opponents? Or do we bring out that, we're really privileged, we're really welcoming this other team who's coming in. I want all the girls to go out and introduce yourself to the person you're playing man-to-man against. Smile at your player. Maybe it's somebody that you know from school. Really look at them as, this is a team that's going to help push us, and just reframe it that way in their minds.
Great, exactly. You certainly do not want to make them the enemy. You want to make that opponent fierce and friendly. A fierce and friendly opponent is considered to be a gift. You want those games in which, you win in soccer, particularly 2-1. A 5-0 game in soccer, neither team really benefited from that. The one team feels as if they were unproductive, and the other team, does not feel good beating up on a lesser opponent. So Anson Dorrance, the UNC women's coach, says that the greatest way to show respect for an opponent is to bring them out and play your best game. And certainly there's games that can be really lopsided with an opponent that is less skilled than you, but that doesn't mean you have to bury them into the ground. You show respect for them by giving them a good game. On the other hand, if you don't get up for that game, because you look at your schedule and you say, oh, well, that's definitely going to be a blowout game, and then all of a sudden this team that's less skilled is competing with you and your team is playing terrible, you did not honor the game by bringing your best game. So that would be something that would happen in honoring the opponents. Okay, the third category is officials. A member from the officials group, if you want to volunteer.
Sure, I'll volunteer.
Okay, great.
We have a lot of young officials in our sport. A lot of them are in high school. So the younger girls sometimes talk back to them because they feel like it's, sometimes it's their big sisters or it's not really an adult official. So we really have to hit hard that the official is making the calls. It's really important that he or she is there to keep the game safe. And we talk about why we have officials with the younger girls, and that, an official's rule, once they blow that whistle, that is locked in stone. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to accept it and move on.
Right. It's almost like when we were talking in the emotional tank where you just, or I'm sorry, in the Elm Tree of Mastery, where you want to have that ritual where you just move on. You shake it off. You think about next play. It's almost like you should have something in your toolbox about if an official makes a bad call, because they are only human. They are going to make bad calls. What can you do to move on to the next most important play? To the next play. What can you do? So it might be just move on, play on, just keep going. I think, well, can I take a poll here on just all the groups, not just the officials groups? How many of you have been officials in the past? Okay. And how many of you are still officials? Okay, that's quite a discrepancy. All right, and so why is that? Because it is a thankless job. It is not an easy job, but you really have to have them in order to make the game safe, playable. They are a vital part of the game. We would never play a game. You're not even allowed to play a match without an official. So they're crucial to the game, and we need to make sure, going back to that R word, not roots, but respect. We need to make sure that we are respecting the officials. Okay, then the next one is teammates. Who's a volunteer from the teammates group?
I'll take that one.
Okay, great. And what were the strengths and weaknesses that you guys found in honoring teammates?
Strengths is that off the court, the players tend to enjoy being with each other and value the bond that they've created. Weaknesses is that on the court sometimes they get frustrated with each other, and on our team we have some very good players who have weaknesses, and so as much as they help the team, say at the net, there's times when they hurt the team when they're in the back row, and our rules are such that if they're going to play at the net, they have to play in the back row too. So that can be a challenge for the kids.
Okay, so we know that teams have to work together, and a team that works together is much stronger than a star individual who's working alone. I often tell my teams, it's easy to beat an individual when you play as a team, but it's hard to beat a team when they play as a team. And so that's that thread that we keep putting through honoring teammates is, a team that respects the strengths and weaknesses of all their players is going to be stronger. And that kind of also goes back to the emotional tank, where you are responsible for making sure that your teammates know they can make mistakes and that they just need to move on. Okay, and then the last one is self. So Kelly, could you take self? Or
Yeah, we said that one of the strengths of self is that the girls, we just have a lot of really nice kids, and they really do. They come to practice on time. They're respectful for the most part, and they're just deep down, they're just really good kids. I think the hard part that we have is them being really hard on themselves when they make a mistake. They kind of beat themselves up and they get really discouraged, and so trying to bring up that level of respect. And at times they also, like, they're fooling around or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing when I have expectations of them. So that's one of the issues that we have.
okay, and that's truly something about honoring yourself, is that when no one's watching you, like when the coach has their back turned, what are they doing to honor themselves, as well as, the whole principle of honoring the game. They need to be able to live up to their expectations even when no one is holding them accountable. That just comes from that intrinsic, I love this game and I want to honor this game. So that kind of goes through our root system: the rules, opponents, officials, teammates, and self.
All right. Yay! Nice job.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And that was only 22 minutes. That wasn't bad. I didn't stop you at 20. I wanted you to finish.
Okay, good. Well, if Ruben didn't answer so long.
I know. You can always blame it on Ruben. It's always fun that way.
Can I blame it on Ruben?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Pam, I just thought that was great. You just get smoother and smoother every time. And I think I like the way that you did that, where you went. We actually just talked to someone right before you about that too. Just go real quick if you're going to do an activity that gets them up and moving around. And I think we gave you that suggestion. I think it worked out really well. You just went real quick through the roots, what they are. And at first when you said, go to the spot, and you asked us a few questions, and then as it went through, you got really simple, like strengths and weaknesses in that area. I think that was a pretty easy way to do it, rather than saying, what challenges you and how would you teach this to your players. I mean, that's kind of a detailed, just strengths and weaknesses. I thought that was really simple, and I understood exactly what I needed to do. So I really liked that. I thought that was good. The only question I have is, what if you were in a room that you could not move around? If it was a tight room or auditorium seating and you couldn't get people up to be able to move around the room, what would you do as an alternative? Do you have any ideas? How would you engage them?
To divide them up into groups?
Yeah.
I could probably just say, this section right here, you guys are rules. Mm-hmm. This section over here, you're your opponents. Mm-hmm. Because they have to know all of it, right?
Yep.
They should be able to honor. And it would just be, what do you think other coaches, you or other coaches, might have in honoring the game as an opponent or officials, just to divide them up, like, 1 through 10 here, 10 through 20 here, and that might be what I would do.
That's a great idea. Good. And that's the kind of the point we're trying to make. Like, a lot of these workshops, the dynamics of the room are completely different every time you walk into a workshop. And sometimes, you have these great ideas of what you want to do, and you get into the room and you go, this isn't going to work. There's no way. And what I've heard some trainers do is say, oh, well, I can't do what I was going to do, so I'm just going to lecture for 20 minutes about it. And we really want to encourage you to just come up with a creative way to get the audience just as engaged as you would if they were speaking in groups. And I love that idea. Just assign it. You're R, you O-O-O-T-S. Or stand up in your seat. Or vote, 1 for R, 2 for O, and vote which one you have the biggest, you need the most area, or most, you have the biggest opportunity for growth. So, good. The other thing, again, I was just talking to you about this beforehand. I just like the way you phrase things. I think your introduction is really strong. It was really great to hear of the fantastic workshop that you went to that inspired you to want to do. Now, I just think I really like the way you talked about your coach at your 40th year reunion, and his legacy was how are you now? And I think that's a really powerful thing. I also like the way you brought up 2 different coaches that you had. I thought that was great. So, and it was short. It was only 4 minutes for an introduction, which is great. That's a good, strong introduction. You put everything in there. So I thought that was good. I also like the idea, what is your root system? It's an acronym, and you said it over. It was like message bombardment. You said the word over and over again, so that I kind of am thinking, what is the root system? And it's funny because when you asked me that question, we had our first practice last week, and I went, man, there is no root system in place right now for this team I'm taking over. There really is none. So when you asked that question, I was literally giving you an honest answer, like, I got to start from ground zero because there is nothing here. But it was a good, thought-provoking question, and what are you going to do, and how are you going to bring that root system in? I thought that was strong. So, I mean, the other thing, Anson Dorans, I said, you mentioned a few times that name, and I would just always put in what sport, where they coach, and anytime you name drop always say who the coach is, what sport they coach, and where they coach. Because sometimes, we'd assume everybody knows what coaches we're talking about. You just said NCAA coach. So I just always make sure anytime I drop a name, I say who the person is and where they coach, just so that room is all in the same. Because I've heard people say, like, okay, what do you think of when you think of Bobby Knight? And that's all they get. And the audience is like, half of them say, oh, I think of a win at all cost coach. But the other half's like, who's Bobby Knight? I don't know what he coached for. So I just never assume people know everybody. But I'm really encouraged. I think you're well on your way. I think it's really exciting to see you take this material and make it your own, and really come across so clear in your communication, and you keep things moving, which is really exciting.
Great, thanks.
Yep, Ruben.
Yeah, congratulations, Pam, on another successful outing. I'll just add a couple little things.
Okay.
So I noticed with honoring the game and respect for roots that you were making a good solid attempt, because I gave you that feedback. Honoring the game, respect for roots. So I appreciated that you did that. You did waver between the two a little bit. Sometimes it was honoring opponents, sometimes it was respecting opponents. And so again, I want to repeat and encourage you to use the word honor and honoring when it comes to the principle, honoring the game. When it comes to roots, try hard to stick to respect.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Just for consistency, honoring the game, and then respect for rules, officials, opponents, teammates. Okay. So with and I really liked how you did roots. I really liked how you jumped right into putting us into groups, and then you sprinkled in your own messaging. You added it to ours. So I like that, as opposed to taking us through roots in any kind of detailed way, and then doing the exercise. I liked how you jumped right into it.
That was a suggestion that Kelly gave me last time, was because I went through everything, and then I put my cards up and said, go.
Okay.
And she was like, well, you're going to give them the answers already, so what are you going to get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the more that I like what you did, is the fact that it was based on feedback from Kelly. So we appreciate that, seeing you take that feedback and giving it a try today. And then the only other thing I want to say is, would you play the Mallory video in a live workshop? Would that be your plan?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So then the video tells the story.
Okay.
The video tells the story. No matter what you say, I say, the video tells the story. So why do we even ask people, has anybody seen this picture and familiar with it? What can you tell me about it? It's not to give more details to the story. It's to involve your participants in another way and keep the conversation going. So I would strongly recommend, if you're going to play the video, take what one participant knows about it, and then, okay, here's the rest of the story.
Put it out there. Okay.
That's a real opportunity for us as trainers not to talk.
Yeah. One of the things I like to do too, I've actually switched the order in my workshop, so I play the video first, and then when the video is over, the next slide is the still picture, so that while I'm discussing it, the picture's up, rather than having just the end of the video, the blank end of the video come up, just so they have something visual to look at. So just an idea.
Sounds good.
Yep. Did you have anything else, Ruben?
That was it.
All right.
That was great.
Cool. All right, Pam. Well, we're excited to have you on board. You passed through this course with flying colors, and Ruben and I will kind of talk about the next steps and look at the Cleveland chapter and figure out how to plug you into live workshops.
Okay.
We're gonna chit chat for a minute, and then we will follow up with an email for you and let you know how we can get you out there in front of live people, because that's what we want to
do. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any questions for us or anything?
No, I mean, I love the content. I'm excited to get going. I love the message. Want to get the word out there. Had an opportunity this weekend. My daughter was playing soccer. I'm not allowed to coach because I'm, her high school coach. So, and I just saw some coaches and I'm cringing. I'm going, oh no, don't do that to her, So definitely it's a great message, and I'm happy to be part of it to get it out. So
That's awesome. Well, I know Cleveland's excited to have you, so that's great.
great. Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.